All right, let's get into this. We all think we know what a Christmas story is supposed to be, right? But tonight, we're not just telling a scary story, we're going to take it apart, piece by piece, and see exactly what makes it work. We're looking at the anatomy of a truly terrifying holiday tale to figure out how it builds that perfect sense of dread. So, right out of the gate, the story just throws away the rulebook. This one line tells you everything you need to know. Forget the carols, forget the cheer. Because sometimes on Christmas Eve, the sound of bells doesn't mean a celebration is coming. It means something else, something dark is arriving. Okay, so what's the first ingredient in any good recipe for horror? Isolation. The story is so smart about this. It doesn't just put our main character in an empty room, it builds this psychological prison all around him. And it picks the one night of the year when being alone feels the absolute heaviest, Christmas Eve. And look at how these factors just stack up, one on top of the other. It's not just one thing. He's in a new city, so nothing is familiar. He has no friends, not even an acquaintance to call, and he's miles and miles from home, so there's absolutely no chance of comfort. He is, for all intents and purposes, the perfect vulnerable target. Whew, what a line. I mean, this is so powerful. The author isn't just saying, hey, it was quiet. No, they're describing a silence that's so heavy, so oppressive, that it becomes a physical thing you can feel. It's like an attack. That quiet isn't empty space, it's filled with something menacing. Seriously, think about it for a second. You know that feeling, right? When it's so quiet that your brain starts making up its own noises? That's exactly where our protagonist is. He's already on edge, completely primed for fear, and the story uses that feeling we've all had to pull us right into that apartment with him. And just when that crushing, deafening silence is at its absolute peak, it gets broken. The story shatters his lonely little world, but not with comfort. Oh no. It shatters it with a terrifying, unexplainable intrusion. The pacing here is just brilliant. So at 11:45, you have that horrible quiet. Then, a knock that's described like an explosion. It's the sudden, violent sound. But when he looks, there's nobody there. Just a little red box, a gift, with a command attached. You see how each step just deepens the mystery and cranks up that dread? And that voice he hears outside the door, it is a textbook example of the uncanny valley. You know, that creepy feeling you get when something looks or sounds almost human, but just isn't quite right? A child's voice should be innocent, comforting. But he knows there are no kids in the building. And that one single fact twists something innocent into something deeply, deeply wrong. This is just cruel, isn't it? It perfectly shows how the story builds tension. This isn't just a gift anymore, it's a ticking time bomb. That simple command, open after 12, turns this harmless little object into a source of pure anxiety. Now he's forced to just sit there, staring at the clock, while his imagination runs absolutely wild with what could be inside. And here we are. This is it. The moment everything has been building towards. The clock is about to strike 12. All of that tension, all of that suspense, it's about to be unleashed. You can just imagine these last few minutes feeling like an eternity for him. He can hear church bells ringing outside, getting louder and louder, like they're not announcing Christmas, but the arrival of some kind of monster. Time itself is just crawling. He's holding his breath. The entire world has shrunk down to two things: the ticking of that clock and the little red box in his hands. He is completely trapped in this final, agonizing second before midnight. And then, bam, exactly as the clock hits 12, the lights flicker and die. Total darkness. He's plunged into sensory deprivation at the absolute peak of his fear. He can't see a thing. The only sound in the whole world is the frantic pounding of his own heart. In that pitch black, suffocating silence, a cold whisper cuts through the air. And here's the real horror. It's not coming from a corner of the room. It's coming from inside the box he's holding in his trembling hands. It speaks right to him. You didn't make a wish. And then comes the final soul-crushing twist. The voice says, I am your last wish. The thing in the box isn't here to grant a wish, it is the wish. This is the moment all his worst fears are confirmed, the moment the supernatural horror is fully terrifyingly real. But then, the sun comes up, morning arrives, and the darkness is gone. The story gives us, and him, this brief moment of hope, of potential relief. Could it have all been just a horrible, vivid nightmare?
maybe brought on by the stress and loneliness?
So on the one hand, yeah, everything looks normal. The sun's out, the apartment is just an apartment again. But then you look over and the cold hard evidence is still there. That little red box is sitting right where he left it. And as we're about to see, there's proof that he just can't deny.
And this is such a chilling modern twist. He checks his phone, and a calendar notification has popped up. The title of the event? Delivered. In our digital world, the nightmare has left a footprint. It wasn't just in his head, it's now logged in his data, a permanent record.
But that proof on his phone, it reveals something even more sinister. See, the story isn't over, not by a long shot. In fact, our protagonist has just learned the horrifying rules of the game he was just forced to play. Attached to that delivered notification is a simple note. Next Christmas, someone else's turn. Think about that. He survived, but he wasn't saved. The curse, the gift, it hasn't ended. It's just been passed on. He was just a stop along the way. And what's truly terrifying here is that this isn't just random chaos. It's a system, a horrifying, repeatable protocol. This entity, whatever it is, it's like a predator. It hunts for the isolated, it introduces itself as a gift, and then it uses its host to find the next victim. It's a self-perpetuating cycle of absolute terror. And that leaves us with a really unsettling thought, doesn't it? The story makes it pretty clear that some gifts aren't just objects, they're living things that choose who gets to have them. So it makes you wonder, this Christmas, if you happen to be alone and you hear that knock, maybe you're not opening the door for a gift. Maybe the gift is opening the door for you.